One thing I think we are also ignoring, or maybe not necessarily talking about as a country in these debates, I'll start with the example he gave of the cartels. We all know at the end of the day that the reason the cartels existed and prospered is because they were being supported by the US government. This is on record. The US, in destabilizing, the countries in South America because of their own political interests at the time, actually funded the cartels. They would allow the cartels to bring in drugs into the US, and arms would go the other way. And this was a symbiotic relationship between the US government and the cartels. And to come back into context with the Kenyatta government, I think one of the, I don't know what to call them, failures, or the key focus of the Kenyatta government, Jubilee government in that sense. And we cannot say it was just Kenyatta, it was the Jubilee government. Right. The Jubilee government was extremely classist because, like I said yesterday, you gain legitimacy from the voter, then you turn your back to the voter and you turn your attention to international capitalists, conglomerates, business interests. We cannot ignore the fact that part of the failure of the Kenyatta government to connect with the people, and by connecting to the people, it's what Prof has been saying right now. When you connect with the people to the point where people feel seen, they feel heard, and they feel valued, it's not just about the road, it's about ensuring that my children, when they go to school, they have a dormitory, they have food, small things like those, where people feel that you are slowly removing them from the dark spaces of living without dignity towards dignity. The Kenyatta government failed to do that because the key focus of the Kenyatta government was international capitalists, oligarchs, conglomerates, business interests, to the detriment of the Kenyan people. When you have a government that is more concerned about building a road to Turkana because international conglomerates want to mine oil up there, that becomes a problem. You're not centering the person in Turkana who has been sitting there with zero infrastructure, zero, nothing, not even welfare for the last 60 years. When you have a government that is more concerned about what does the IMF say about my education level? Let's change the education system because we are benchmarking, this is what the Americans want. This is what the UN wants. This is what the WHO wants. When you have a government that is more focused, outward focused instead of inward focused, that is where the problems begin. And of course, there'll be a huge disconnect with the people because when Kenyatta was focused on making the country attractive to foreign capital, to the detriment of local businesses were dying faster in the Jubilee government than even in the Kibaki one. Because all these different taxes, you've got 5 different taxes. Before you open a license for a bar, for example, you have to have a license from 6 or 7. You have to get, 5 county licenses. You have to get a license from all these things. When a person who is from some valley in the US has an easier time opening a business here because you're trying to make this place business friendly for all these international capitalists, to the detriment, I who wants to open a business here, it will take me forever because of all these licenses. But somebody calling himself a venture capitalist from some country because they have got a blue passport from the US can just come down here, open this business because they say they've got all this capital. That was the problem. When your main issue is to please international capitalists to the detriment of your own people, that becomes an issue. And that's why we were saying that the Kenyatta government was extremely elitist and classist because that was the focus. You're not focusing on the needs of what your people are saying. We want a single business permit. We want you to reduce taxes here. So at the end of the day, because of all these loans that the Kenyatta, the Jubilee government was taking from China, from the World Bank, from the IMF, now we are going to have, there was a rumor that the UNGA subsidy was removed yesterday, and then somebody said that's fake news, that it's still there. Is it a sustainable subsidy? No, because taxes have to be paid, and bills have to be paid, and loans have to be repaid. When you live in a country where the focus is pleasing outsiders and pleasing the white gaze, that becomes a problem, and it's a problem that brings us to where we are today. Okay. Will the hustler narrative fix that? The hustler narrative was politically sound because it made people feel seen, that you are not focused out there, you're focused on me, and you know, there's a narrative like what the incoming, I think, governor of Nairobi said, instead of having 5 different licenses, I'm just going to make sure you get 1 license. Will he deliver on that? Because at the end of the day, somebody somewhere will say, we need to raise revenue for the county government, and it's through the licenses. We are yet to see how that will pan out. But to the political ear, it sounded like a very attractive, you know, inward-looking, it was inward-looking and bottoms-up approach other than a top, because we know that when things are from top down, they rarely, as Prof said, percolate. They don't trickle down to the common mwananchi who is down here, you know, living in this harsh economic environment.
So some would argue that Huduma centers were created for you and me and our businesses at the local level.
We're not saying they've not done
access
nothing
to those licenses easier.
Yeah.
Yes, but the Huduma Center, which is in my area, you know, they opened an office at the Garden City, and the doors never opened. So for me to access a Huduma Center, I would have to come down all the way to Railways. And sometimes you'd line up there for 3-4 hours and give up, you know. Yes, Huduma Centers worked. It was bringing it was bringing you know, the services closer to the people. But is bringing services closer to the people equivalent to making sure that these services, that these people you're bringing services to are seen and heard? If I still have to line up for 5 different licenses, Huduma Center is closer to me. Yes, I don't have to travel to another town to access it. But I'm still paying for 5 licenses. I'm still paying for 10 licenses. So bringing services closer to the people is not necessarily making the lives of the people
better.
Yes, it's not equivalent.